You've shifted something fundamental, and the avoidant feels it deep in their nervous system in ways they cannot fully articulate. They can't name what's changed, but their nervous system registers that you're no longer playing the game according to the old rules. The energy you're bringing now threatens their entire defensive structure in ways that look like nervousness, but signal something much more significant. The avoidant is used to people pursuing, accommodating, and organizing their entire lives around the avoidant's availability and sporadic presence. But you've stopped doing this completely. You've claimed your own space, centered your own needs, and moved through your life with a self-possession that makes the avoidant deeply uncomfortable. This discomfort isn't bad at all. It's the necessary friction that precedes change. When your energy makes the avoidant genuinely nervous, it means you've stopped reinforcing their patterns and started disrupting them. The avoidant's nervousness is their attachment system clearly recognizing that the usual strategies won't work with you anymore, that they'll have to do something different if they want to maintain connection. Understanding these signs helps you recognize when you're finally operating from a position of strength rather than the anxious pursuit that kept the avoidant comfortable in their distance. The goal isn't to manipulate the avoidant into changing. It's to embody an energy so grounded in your own worth that their patterns can no longer function the way they used to in this dynamic. Sign 1. They're suddenly hyper-aware of your availability. The avoidant used to take your availability for granted. You were always there when they decided to reach out, always responsive when they wanted attention, always willing to drop your plans to accommodate theirs. But now, something has shifted in a way they can't ignore. You're busy when they text. You have plans when they want to see you. You're invested in your own life in ways that don't automatically reorganize around their sporadic interest. Subscribe for insights that go beyond surface-level advice to help you understand what's really happening in these attachment dynamics. The avoidant notices this change immediately, and it makes them nervous because their entire strategy depended on your constant availability, creating a safety net they could fall back on whenever they wanted, connection without commitment or real investment. This nervousness manifests as the avoidant paying closer attention to your schedule than they ever did before. They start asking questions about what you're doing, who you're with, what's occupying your time. This isn't concern for your well-being. It's anxiety about losing access to you. The avoidant is realizing that you're not sitting around waiting for them, that you have a full life that doesn't center their needs, that their window of opportunity to reach you is narrowing. This realization is deeply uncomfortable because it means they might have to actually pursue you, might have to show up consistently, might have to treat you like a priority rather than an option. The hyper-awareness also shows up in the avoidant testing your boundaries around availability. They might reach out late at night to see if you'll respond immediately. They might make last-minute plans to test if you'll drop everything. They might create small emergencies to see if you'll prioritize them over your own commitments. These tests are attempts to restore the old dynamic where your availability was unconditional. When you maintain your boundaries and continue living your life on your own terms, the avoidance nervousness increases because they're losing the control they had through your constant accessibility. This is good. it means you're no longer making yourself small to accommodate their patterns. Sign 2. They're questioning their own position in your life. The avoidant used to be confident about their importance to you. Your pursuit made your investment clear. Your patience with their patterns proved you'd tolerate anything to keep them around. Your emotional availability, despite their emotional distance, showed them they mattered to you more than you mattered to yourself. But your new energy has disrupted this certainty. The avoidant can no longer tell if they're as important to you as they used to be. They're not sure if you're still invested in the connection or if you've moved on emotionally. This uncertainty makes them profoundly nervous because it threatens their sense of control. The questioning manifests as the avoidant seeking reassurance in ways they never did before. They might fish for compliments or confirmation that you still care. They might bring up past moments of connection to gauge whether those moments still matter to you. They might create situations where you have to choose between them and something else to test where they rank in your priorities. The avoidant needs to know they still have power in the dynamic, that their presence or absence affects you, that you're still organized around them even if you're pretending not to be. When your responses don't give them the reassurance they're seeking, when you remain grounded in your own center, rather than rushing to confirm their importance, their nervousness escalates. The position questioning also includes the avoidant becoming more aware of competition. When you were pursuing them, they didn't worry about losing you to someone else because your devotion seemed guaranteed. But now that your energy has shifted to self-focus, the avoidant starts noticing other people in your life. They become aware that you have options, that you're attractive to others, that someone else might offer you the consistency they've been withholding. This awareness creates a specific kind of nervousness, rooted in the possibility of loss. The avoidant is confronting that they might not be as secure in their position as they assumed, that their strategy of keeping you at a distance while maintaining your devotion might have backfired. Sign 3. They're experiencing withdrawal symptoms from your attention. The avoidant is used to receiving attention, validation, and emotional availability from you without having to reciprocate. Even when they were distant, you were thinking about them, reaching out, trying to understand them, organizing your emotional world around them. Your attention was a constant supply they could draw from without ever having to contribute. But you've withdrawn that supply. You're no longer initiating contact as frequently. You're not analyzing their behavior or trying to decode their patterns. You're not offering emotional availability they haven't earned. The avoidant is experiencing withdrawal from the attention they took for granted, and this withdrawal makes them nervous. The withdrawal symptoms show up as the avoidant trying to regain your attention through various strategies. They might suddenly become more communicative, reaching out more frequently than they did when you were pursuing. They might share things about their life they used to keep private, trying to draw you back into focusing on them. They might create drama or problems that require your attention and problem solving. These behaviors reveal that the avoidant was more dependent on your attention than they admitted to themselves. Now that the supply has been cut off, they're scrambling to restore it because the absence creates discomfort they don't know how to manage. The withdrawal also creates nervousness because it forces the avoidant to confront their own attachment. When you were pouring attention into them, they could maintain the illusion that they were the less invested party, the one being pursued, the person in control. Your withdrawal of attention disrupts this narrative. The avoidant has to acknowledge that they want your attention, that they miss it, that they're affected by its absence. This acknowledgement threatens their entire self-concept as independent and unbothered. The nervousness comes from the cognitive dissonance between who they believe themselves to be and what their behavior is revealing about their actual needs. Sign 4. They're noticing you're genuinely happy without them. The avoidant is used to being needed. Even when they were distant, they assumed their presence in your life was essential to your happiness. They believed that despite their patterns, you needed them more than they needed you. But your new energy communicates something different. You're genuinely happy. Not performing happiness to make them jealous, not faking contentment to protect your pride, but actually thriving in your own life. You have fulfillment from sources that don't include them. You have joy that doesn't depend on their validation. You have a life that works whether they're in it or not. This genuine happiness makes the avoidant deeply nervous because it suggests you don't need them the way they assumed you did. The nervousness around your happiness manifests as the avoidant trying to insert themselves into your joy. They might suddenly want to participate in activities you're enjoying without them. They might express interest in parts of your life they previously ignored. They might try to become more present exactly when you've learned to be happy without their presence. These attempts reveal the avoidant's discomfort with your independence. They're not celebrating your happiness. They're threatened by it, because it means they're losing the power that came from being necessary to your well-being. The genuine happiness also forces the avoidant to question whether their patterns are costing them something valuable. When you were pursuing and clearly unhappy with the dynamic, the avoidant could tell themselves that you were too needy, that the problem was your expectations, that they were fine, and you needed to accept them as they are. But now that you're happy without them, the avoidant has to consider whether their patterns are preventing them from accessing the kind of fulfillment you found. This question is uncomfortable because it suggests the problem might be their avoidance rather than other people's neediness. The nervousness is the beginning of self-reflection that could lead to actual change. The underlying dynamic of nervous energy. What makes the avoidant nervous isn't that you've become mean, cold, or rejecting. It's that you've become whole. You're no longer fragmented by anxiety about the relationship. You're not splitting your attention between living your life and managing their patterns. You're not organizing your emotional state around their availability. The avoidant is nervous because wholeness in another person exposes the fractures in themselves. When you were anxious and pursuing, they could feel superior, more together, less damaged. But now that you've integrated yourself and moved from a place of centeredness, their own fragmentation becomes visible through contrast. They see what it looks like to be grounded and realize they're not. The nervousness also stems from the avoidant, recognizing they can't control you through the old methods. Distance used to make you pursue harder. Withdrawal used to make you more accommodating. Coldness used to make you try harder to earn warmth. But none of these strategies work anymore. You respond to distance with your own space. You meet withdrawal with presence in your own life. You accept coldness without trying to generate heat. The avoidant's entire toolkit for managing connection has become ineffective, and they don't know what to do. This powerlessness creates nervousness because the avoidant is losing the ability to dictate the terms of the relationship. They're being forced to engage differently or not at all. The underlying dynamic also includes the avoidant sensing that you might actually leave. When you were pursuing, leaving seemed impossible. You were too invested, too attached, too focused on making things work. But your new energy suggests you're prepared to walk away if the relationship doesn't serve you. The avoidant can feel that you have one foot out the door, that you're evaluating whether the connection adds value to your life rather than desperately trying to preserve it at any cost. This possibility of real loss creates nervousness because the avoidant is confronting that their patterns might have consequences they can't reverse. They're running out of time to decide what matters more, their defenses or the connection. Why the nervousness is positive. The avoidance nervousness signals that your energy is finally creating the conditions necessary for change. Comfortable avoidants don't change. Avoidants who feel secure in their power don't examine their patterns. The nervousness means you've disrupted the equilibrium that allowed the avoidant to maintain their defenses without cost. Now there's friction. The old patterns create discomfort instead of safety. The avoidant is being forced to choose between staying in their comfort zone and losing you or stepping outside their patterns to maintain connection. This choice is what creates the possibility for growth. Without the discomfort your new energy creates, the avoidant would have no motivation to do the difficult work of examining and changing their attachment patterns. The nervousness is positive because it indicates the avoidant is feeling something real. They're experiencing anxiety about loss, awareness of competition, recognition of their dependence, confrontation with their pattern's limitations. All of these feelings break through the numbness and detachment the avoidant usually maintains. Feeling something, even nervousness, is progress for someone who typically avoids feeling anything that might reveal vulnerability or need. The nervousness is proof that you matter to them enough to generate emotional response, which is the foundation necessary for any real change. An avoidant who feels nothing when you shift your energy is an avoidant who isn't attached enough for the relationship to have potential. The positivity also lies in the nervousness, revealing the avoidant's attachment. When they're comfortable, the avoidant can maintain the illusion of independence. But nervousness about losing you, about your decreased availability, about your happiness without them, exposes that they're attached. They care. They're invested. They don't want to lose you. This attachment has always existed beneath their defenses, but your old pursuing energy allowed them to hide it from themselves and from you. Your new grounded energy forces the attachment into visibility where it can no longer be denied or minimized. Once the avoidant can see and feel their own attachment, they can begin to work with it rather than defending against it. This is the beginning of the healing process that makes secure attachment possible. What your energy should continue to embody. The energy that's making the avoidant nervous needs to be authentic and sustainable rather than a strategy to manipulate them into changing. If you're faking disinterest while internally obsessing, the avoidant will sense the performance and remain unmoved. The power comes from genuinely shifting your center from them to yourself, from actually building a life you love, whether they're in it or not, from truly becoming someone who values themselves enough to have real standards and boundaries. This authentic shift is what creates the nervousness, because the avoidant can't argue with or manipulate genuine self-possession. They recognize real when they see it, and real self-focus is threatening in ways performance never is. Your energy should embody clear boundaries that aren't punitive, but are firm. You're not withholding access to punish the avoidant for their patterns. You're protecting your own peace and investing in your own well-being. The boundaries aren't about controlling their behavior, but about controlling your own participation in dynamics that don't serve you. When the avoidant tests boundaries, you maintain them not to prove a point, but because violating them would compromise your integrity. This clarity makes the avoidant nervous, because boundaries based in self-respect rather than manipulation are much harder to erode or guilt trip you out of maintaining. The energy should also include compassion without caretaking. You can understand that the avoidance patterns come from wounds without making those wounds your responsibility to heal. You can feel empathy for their struggle without sacrificing your needs to accommodate their limitations. This balance of compassion and boundaries is threatening to the avoidant because it doesn't fit their usual categories. You're not the pursuer they can dismiss as needy, but you're also not the cold person they can use to justify their defenses. You're something else entirely, a whole person with your own center who can hold space for them without losing yourself. This wholeness is what makes the avoidant most nervous, because it's exactly what they need, but have no idea how to receive or reciprocate. The critical difference between nervous and activated. It's important to distinguish between the avoidant being nervous and the avoidant being activated into their attachment wounds. Nervous means uncomfortable but engaged, questioning but still present, disrupted but not destroyed. Activated means triggered into full defensive shutdown where they disappear completely or become hostile. Your energy should be making them nervous, not activated. The difference is in your approach. Nervous comes from you being grounded, boundaried, and focused on yourself. Activated comes from you being aggressive, punishing, or trying to force them to change through pressure or ultimatums. Nervousness keeps the avoidant engaged, even while uncomfortable. They're still reaching out, still testing, still trying to figure out how to adapt to your new energy. This engagement is crucial because it means they're in the discomfort rather than fleeing from it. If the avoidant is nervous but still present, you're in the productive zone where change becomes possible. If you push harder and activate their deepest defenses, they'll shut down completely, and the opportunity for growth will be lost. The skill is maintaining your grounded energy while not weaponizing it to punish or control them. Your energy should be about you, not about managing their response. The distinction also matters for your own discernment about whether the relationship is viable. If your healthy boundaries and self-focus consistently activate the avoidant into shutdown rather than generating productive nervousness, it's information that this person might not be capable of the growth required for functional relationship. Some avoidants will respond to the nervousness by beginning to examine their patterns and make changes. Others will respond by escalating their defenses and withdrawing further. Your energy reveals which kind of avoidant you're dealing with, and that information helps you make informed decisions about whether continued investment makes sense. The avoidant's response to your grounded energy tells you everything you need to know about their capacity for growth and change in this moment of their life.